Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to be covering the rest of the week that was in pro wrestling. And that is WWE SmackDown, AEW Rampage, and AEW Collision. That's right. It is our first full week of content in a while. My apologies for that. But we're back at it on our road to WrestleMania. So I want you all to sit back, relax, and let's get into this one. So we start with WWE SmackDown. And we start with the guy who pretty much came up with the name for the show. It's The Rock. And we start off with the Rock concert segment. Now, if you don't know The Rock concert, he's done a couple of these over the years. Once was when in like 2004, 2005 when he was feuding with Bill Goldberg when he was first Hollywood Rock. Then he had a very, very strange one with Cena, which was really PG and was just a redub of We Will Rock You, if you remember that, which was awful. This one was honestly very interesting because it was blues-centric, which was really, really cool. And he also had a couple other bandmates. I forget the name of the two people. But, they sung a song about, Cody Rhodes and how he was a mistake. Seth Rollins being the clown of WWE and taking, making his title obsolete. Saying how Seth's wife, Becky Lynch, is more popular than him, which, that's fine. Then he mentions, the Cody Crybabies, aka us, who pretty much helped change the match, from, Rock Roman to Cody Roman. So, yep, that's gonna be interesting. Then, the actual concert segment ends, but his promo continues, which it's very, very interesting. Pretty much says, some lines you just don't cross. You can kiss the ass of the final boss. Actually, I think that's the end of the Rock concert segment. Anyway, Rock wants to say something else. Last week, Cody slapped the taste out of my mouth. And he finally manned up. And what did The Rock do? Stood there, he took it, and he smiled. And Cody, we all awaited your reaction on Raw. And how did you respond? By crying. And you got to be bleeping me. And yes, he didn't say bleep, he said the S word. Not giving anyone anything. Wants to talk to one person, and that's your mama, Cody. Uh-oh. And while you don't know The Rock, and The Rock doesn't know you, we're gonna get to know each other. Because Cody took something from me. He took that WrestleMania main event against my cousin. And at WrestleMania, it's gonna be payback time. I cannot wait to finish his story. But it's not happening as long as I'm here. And I'm going to take my belt. And he brings out a kind of Cody Rhodes-ish weight belt. But it has The Rock's logo on it. And I'm going to take it. I'm going to beat your son with it. I'm going to tear his flesh. And when I'm done, I'm going to hand this belt to you. His blood all on it. And I'm going to whisper, what can I say except you're welcome? And then he finishes up, if you're somehow, what the final boss is cooking. I'm going to say that was a great segment by The Rock. He's kind of getting me back on his side. Like, although, my only issue, if it can be an issue, is it feels like The Rock is taking Roman's spot. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad The Rock is here doing this stuff, but it with The Rock calling himself the final boss, that should be Roman. That honestly should be Roman's spot. No? I don't know. It hopefully this is all leading to something, and I don't know, maybe it's a future Roman Reigns face turn. But yeah, this is interesting and intricate, and I'm interested to see what they do not only at WrestleMania, but beyond. Because that's going to be interesting. So, that's our first segment. Our first match is actually a kind of tournament match to determine the SmackDown representative for the WrestleMania Tag Team Title ladder match. And I'll explain that one maybe Wednesday, but our two participants, we got Legado del Fantasma, that's Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, taking on the LWOs, Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde. And I'm going to say this was a very high-flying, intricate little matchup with a lot going on. It did look like the LWO was going to pick up the win, but not Angel Garza, Santos Escobar kind of gets involved, but then Humberto and then Garza hit the Rita Vita, I think that was the finisher name, to pick up the win and move on in the tournament. I'll kind of explain the tournament a little bit later with the other match. So, we'll see. So, Legado del Fantasma moves on in the tournament. Then we get an on-the-stage interview with L.A. Knight. Yeah. Pretty much saying, look, I need to cook for a minute. He takes a microphone from the interviewer. Interviewer leaves. Says, AJ Styles, last week I needed to be humbled. Now you're talking my language. Why not come out and humble me now? Waits for a minute. AJ doesn't come out. And it's what I thought. Because you're not big enough for this ride. You're just making some empty threats. And yet you find it within yourself to fly across the world to Australia and attack me, yet you cannot come into work today. And the biggest mark in wrestling today is AJ. But I know somewhere where you cannot help but to show up, and that's WrestleMania. And you say, I walk around like I own the place, but at WrestleMania, I'm going to own your ass. So, LA Knight issuing a pretty big challenge to Styles. And as he finishes, AJ Styles comes from behind him, attacks him with a steel chair, picks up the microphone. He says, he sits in the chair over LA Knight, picks up a microphone, says, I accept. So that match is on. We got a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. That's going to be an interesting one. Next, we pull backstage. We're in Nick Aldis' office. And who seems to enter? It's the United States champion, Logan Paul. And he wants Nick Aldis to issue a punishment for Randy Orton for what he did to KSI. And then Aldis just like, I don't know. And then Logan Paul continues to complain a little bit, says Randy should apologize. Not just for himself, but for you. And look what it could impact here on SmackDown with the rest of your roster who would just do whatever they want. Then Aldis says, look, I'm not going to be issuing that apology. Why don't you go out, see Randy Orton for yourself, and get that apology in person? And Logan just kind of throws up his hands and it's like, oh, yeah, why don't I do that? Unless you want to do your job. But obviously you cannot do your job, as you cannot find me a worthy opponent for WrestleMania. So, that's going to be set up a little later. Don't you worry. Then we get Paul Heyman, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa. They're just getting out of the Bloodline Mobile. And that's what I'm going to call it. It's a big SUV. And then the interviewer kind of jump scares Paul Heyman, which that was a funny reaction. Like, I get that. Interviewer starts asking about, Jay's challenge for Jimmy. Then Jimmy interrupts, pretty much says, look, Jay, you're talking all that big noise on Raw. And while you've had all your successes, before that, it was you and me as a team. But you were always the little brother. And last year, it was you and me together defending the tag titles. This year, it's me versus you. Yeet. So, we're getting Jimmy versus Jay at WrestleMania. I'm kind of excited for this one because, like Jimmy said, they were a tag team last year at WrestleMania. They lost the match. So this match definitely feels a little bit personal. I'm glad we finally got to it. Got another match set up for WrestleMania. Gonna be interesting. Next matchup, we got Grayson Waller versus Randy Orton. Before the match could go on, Logan Paul is out on commentary. This was a very by-the-numbers match. Like, I wouldn't say bad, but it was very formulaic and very safe for Randy Orton. At one point, Waller tried for his flatliner finisher, in which I'm a little sad they kind of moved on from the stunner finisher he used to do. But, yeah. One point, Randy Orton went for his draping DDT. Austin Theory gets up on the apron to, delay time for Waller. Orton hits him with the DDT. And then, Theory pulls Waller out of the ring as he... Stop. As he's...
Activity can't be logged manually.
God damn it. Then Theory saves Waller from an RKO. Pretty much another draping DDT for Theory. RKO for Waller. Your winner, Randall Keith Orton. Post-match, a chop block from Theory. Theory then has Randy Orton in a headlock. Logan Paul gets up from commentary. He's about to hit Randy Orton right in the mush. Out comes Kevin Owens to make the save. They brawl for a bit. Randy goes for an RKO on Logan Paul. That gets stopped. Then, the weirdest transitional move I've ever seen, as Theory eats a stunner, but instead of kind of selling it into the RKO, he kind of just... He eats the stunner, stops on a dime, and then launches himself into the RKO. It was very weird and very funny. I didn't catch it at the time, but I've seen highlights of it now, and it's... I don't know what it was, but it just looked funny to me. So, yep, anyway, before the segment ends, Logan pulls up the ramp. Out comes General Manager Nick Aldis. He gets on a microphone, says, "Oh, hey Logan, I just wanted to follow up on our little meeting. Did you get that apology from Randy Orton?" Logan's like, "Dude, what the heck are you talking about?" Randy Orton's in the ring, kind of smiling. "No? Well, I got some good news for you. I found your opponents for WrestleMania for the United States title, as it's both Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Ooh, boy, that's going to be a fun one. Like, that's definitely a WrestleMania match to me. And it kind of mixes it up, because there's a lot of singles one-on-one matches on this card. So, yeah, good to mix it up a little. Next up, we got a Damage Control interview backstage, where Dakota Kai kind of takes front and center, with Dakota pretty much saying, "Bayley, I just want to talk to you directly. You won't be able to take all of us out. I'm going to break you tonight, and if this is all you're doing, if we wanted to grow, we need to get rid of you, and we're going to prove why we run this show." So nice, easy interview from Dakota Kai. We then go into a very interesting rematch, as we got Santos Escobar taking on Dragon Lee. It has definitely been a while since we've seen Dragon Lee on TV, although he was on last week as a backstage attack from Santos and Legado del Fantasma, which led into this match, which honestly was very, very good. Little slow to start at the beginning, but eventually it did pick up, with both guys going for big moves. At one point, you had Angel and Humberto trying to get in Dragon Lee's way. Then with Arana from Dragon Lee, gets back in the ring, eats a Phantom Driver for a Santos Escobar win. Post-match, Legado del Fantasma attacks Dragon Lee, who tries to make the save at first. It's Carlito, in which hits a backstabber on Angel Garza. But then Santos eventually gets the better of Carlito. Numbers game of the advantage of Legado del Fantasma, who makes the ultimate save, but it's Rey Mysterio back from injury. Glad to see Rey Mysterio back. He and Santos brawl for a little bit. Rey Mysterio with a Hurricane Rana goes for the 619, but Legado del Fantasma pull Santos Escobar out of the ring. Then Rey Mysterio gets on the microphone. He says, "Santos, why the heck are you running? Like you said, it was always just supposed to be you and me. We were familia. And let me give you something you always wanted. Next week, you and me in the ring, one-on-one, and I'll wipe that smug smile off your face." Ooh, that match is going to be awesome. I cannot wait for it. And it's going to be interesting to see what Legado del Fantasma and the LWO do for WrestleMania. Because if you saw my predictions for the card, I did have them both in a 6-man. We'll see. Next up is the other half of the quarterfinals, I guess, of the tag team title qualifiers for the ladder match for WrestleMania, as you got British Strong Style, that's Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, taking on Pretty Deadly for like the upteenth time. And this match felt a little rushed. Like, they definitely had the greatest hits for Bate and Dunne. Pretty Deadly definitely got some good stuff in. Tyler Bate with an airplane spin, and that gets me every time. You don't see that as a transitional move anymore. Eventually, we do see an aided bulldog by Pretty Deadly. That was pretty cool. Only for a 2 count. British Strong Style with the Birmingham Hammer for the win. So they don't qualify for the ladder match yet. They're going to get Legado del Fantasma in the future. And I believe that's how they're going to qualify, I think. I don't know. This whole thing is weird. And we get our SmackDown main event as it's Bayley taking on her former protege, Dakota Kai. And this was pretty much Damage Control, pretty much running things. Bayley definitely got some good stuff in. Dakota Kai blocking a Bayley to belly, which I'm surprised we got a little tease of that move. Bayley with a super powerbomb. But then that brings in Io Sky. She's about to hit Bayley with her title. Stops off. Lays it down. Has a face-off with Bayley. Then the rest of Damage Control jump Bayley. Match gets thrown out. A little sad on that. And while Damage Control continues the beatdown on Bayley, who comes out to try to make the save? It's Naomi, which is very interesting because she had a little conversation a couple weeks ago with Bianca Belair. She tries to fight off Damage Control, but the numbers are too great, with Io ending the show with a big old moonsault. So, we'll see who else comes to Bayley's aid. Maybe we'll see a disgruntled Bianca Belair do it. But, yeah, we'll see. Oh, good lord. Next up, we got AEW Rampage. As we start off with a little tag team qualifier. Actually, I don't know if this is a part of the AEW Tag Team Title Tournament that's going on. I don't think it is. As we got Evil Uno and John Silver, of all people, taking on Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta of the Best Friends. And this was a fun little match. Like, everyone got some good stuff in. Evil Uno looked like an absolute beast out there. But ultimately, after a big old orange punch into a strong 0, your winners, Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy. We then get a video promo from The Righteous, in which they pretty much say something that needs to die is reborn again. Someone gets it wrong. We never made a bad move. When someone tries to bury you, fight back. Dig what I'm saying? I don't fully grasp what's going on here with The Righteous, but we'll see them a little later. Next, we see Saraya, Harley Cameron, and Zach, what's his name? Saraya's brother. They're kind of hanging out in the back. And then Zach starts beating up, stagehands and stuff. And then, ultimately, you pan back. You see Angelo Parker standing there, looks like he's ready for a fight. He and Zack start brawling. Then the camera cuts. So, looks like we're getting that feud in a little bit. That should be a fun one. We then get the tag team debut of Mariah May and Toni Storm as they take on Little Miss Kathleen and I want to say it was like Victoria Sparks. I'm not sure of her name. This was definitely the... before the match starts, Toni Storm gets on the microphone saying, tonight's performance will be a special tag team match. And enjoy the show, everyone. And Purrazzo, I know you and your partner want a closer look. Watch this. Before the bell rings, Storm and May attack their opponents. And this was essentially the Mariah May Toni Storm show. With a lot of just hip attacks and just a lot of hard hitting from Storm and May. Toni Storm hits the Storm Zero to pick up the win for the team. Then, on the stage, you have Deonna Purrazzo come out. She acknowledges the stage, the entrance, and out comes Thunder Rosa, who is revealed as Deonna Purrazzo's partner. Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa come in the ring. May and Storm bow out. Purrazzo then gets on the microphone, pretty much says to Storm, that's what I thought. We'll see you two next week, ladies. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting little tag team match. Next up, we got Konosuke Takeshita taking on Komander. And honestly, this was an absolutely beautiful bout between two equal but parallel talents. Like, you got the obvious power of Takeshita, but he could easily keep up with the absolute blinding speed of Komander. Eventually, Konosuke Takeshita actually tries for a power drive knee about middle of the show, and Komander completely ducks it. Komander tries for a pile driver, but that gets countered. Takeshita with a beautiful blue thunder bomb, only for a 2 count. Takeshita with a power bomb into a kick, into a Falcon Arrow for Takeshita to pick up the win. We then get a Serena Deeb promo in which she pretty much says, look, I've been looking for competition for a while since I returned. Now I want to shoot for the top. So, kind of generic promo from Deeb, but I'm definitely excited to see what she can do. And finally, our main event for Rampage. And it's a big old 6-man tag team match, as we got the Undisputed Kingdom being represented by Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett, taking on brothers Dante and Darius Martin of Top Flight and Action Andretti. And this was a really, really fun main event. Obviously, Top Flight and the Kingdom, Taven and Bennett, know each other really, really well from their days in Ring of Honor. That was maybe a couple months ago. And honestly, this was a really, really fun main event. Really, a lot of really good back and forth. But eventually, your winners via the end of Heartache, the Undisputed Kingdom. So, we'll see where this goes in the near future. I was kind of hoping Taven and Bennett would be in the tag title tournament, but I guess not. We'll see how this goes later on down the line. So that's it for AEW Rampage. We now finish up with AEW Collision, starting off with an absolute dream match, and y'all can't tell me otherwise. It's the American Dragon Bryan Danielson against Katsuyori Shibata, and oof, boy, these two kicked 7 shades of damn out of one another. Like, I'm not even figuratively saying that. They literally kicked each other raw. They traded ankle locks. Shibata with a hammer and anvil elbow. They traded moves a whole lot on the mat. At one point, Danielson goes for the Busaiku knee, but Shibata ducks it into an octopus hold, which, glad to see that, well represented. Some countering roll-ups. Danielson tries for the label lock. Shibata kind of gets out, but at the last minute, roll up into the tights. And your winner, Bryan Danielson. And oh boy, if you're a fan of just pure wrestling, this is the match for you. This is just wrestling in its purest form, and I will see no slander about it. Post-match, Bryan extends his hand. Shibata kind of gets up in Bryan's face, and they shake hands. A sign of respect of two of the absolute best to ever lace them up. Next up, we got a TBS title match where the loser of the match has to stay in the back for the main event. Now, what this means is Julia Hart, who's the champion, usually manages the House of Black, while her opponent, Trish Adora, usually manages the Infantry, who we'll be seeing later, as this is the first match of the AEW Tag Team Title Tournament. So, we got Julia Hart versus Trish Adora. It is just amazing to see how much Julia Hart has improved since she got to AEW. And Trish Adora is just a really, really good wrestler. They counter each other back and forth, tick for tack. They were pretty even down the stretch until Julia Hart, Trish Adora misses on a senton. Julia Hart with a super kick goes up, hits a beautiful moonsault to pick up the win, retain her title, and keep Trish Adora away from the main event. So next up, we got a backstage interview from Zack Knight, who is Saraya's little brother, and Harley Cameron for an interview. And Zack Knight pretty much takes center stage, saying, "Cool Hand, you want your fight tonight? I'll give you a fight, but it's going to be on my terms." And, pretty short and sweet promo from a relative newcomer to AEW. I'm not sure how interested I am in a match like this. I think they were already announced for Collision, but I'm okay with them delaying it a little bit. Next up, a very interesting matchup. A little random, but I'm okay with that. You got Daniel Garcia taking on Lee Moriarty. Two relative young guys for AEW, but they're easily two of the best young guys to lace them up. This was great move after great move. Counter to counter, including Garcia going for a pile driver, that getting countered into a stomp. Lee Moriarty trying to go for the Fang, but that gets blocked. Daniel Garcia then gets a heel hook onto Lee Moriarty to pick up a big submission win. Post-match, you got Matt Menard, who was on commentary, get in the ring, and they celebrate with Daniel Garcia. We then get a pretty interesting look at Darby Allin's foot injury, and everything is pretty screwed up there, canceling Darby Allin's excursion to Mount Everest, which, that's a shame. I would like to see him do it, but alas, injuries happen. Get better soon, Darby Allin. Hope to see you down the line. Next up, a very weirdly even match, as we got the Bastard Pack taking on Aaron Solo. Usually Solo is hanging out with QT Marshall and his crew. Obviously that no longer exists. So seeing Solo out there solo is very interesting. Solo at first tries to get the jump on Pac. Pac eventually he pretty much kicks the living dang out of Solo. Hits a black arrow into the brutalizer for the submission win. Pac then gets on the microphone, pretty much says, Tony, I told you already, the bastard's back, and I'm looking for trouble. And this, what you had me face tonight, isn't what I had in mind. And I'll say it again, I'm looking for trouble, and if you don't give me I'm gonna find it myself. Oh, I've missed Pac for a while. Pac is one of my favorite personalities in wrestling. Gonna be interesting to see what he considers trouble. We then get a backstage promo from Bryan Danielson. He starts off kind of meditating. Then he pretty much sees the camera, says, I'm feeling nothing but gratitude. I'm so thankful to have wrestled Shibata tonight. Obviously, we were told we were never meant to wrestle again after our injuries. But tonight, and we fought like hell. And I'm coming up on my match with Ospreay. And I was sold this when he gets in the ring. When with me, it's going to be live or die. He cannot walk in my shoes. And I bang on death's door because I love this sport. I know what you're willing to do, Will. And you're not ready for that. Oh, that's going to be a fun one. I cannot wait for that match. Next up, a very kind of last-minute addition to AEW Collision, as it's the Meat Division, as Claudio Castagnoli takes on Lance Archer. And I'm just glad this got a whole lot of time, because these two deserve it. Again, a nice little back-and-forth bout. Couple of times, Castagnoli counters Archer's move. Archer countered out of the Ricola bomb. That was interesting. And just as Claudio was going for the giant swing, out comes Vincent and Dutch of the Righteous. All three attack Claudio, so that is a winner by DQ for Claudio. Out to try to make the save is Bryan Danielson, who gets hit with a cutter from Vincent. Then out of the blue, a very interesting ally for the Blackpool Combat Club, as Shibata makes the save and runs off Archer and the Righteous. Definitely going to be interesting to see what they can do with this. So, yeah. We then cut backstage. It is a Ruby Soho Angelo Parker interview, with Parker saying, look, tonight I was ready for a fight with you, Zach, but obviously you're ducking me. And now I just want to go. If you're not going to give me this match, I'm going to come and find you and beat you down. Before he can, Ruby Soho puts a hand on his shoulder, pretty much saying, look, this is obviously a trap. This is what they want. You're going to go looking for if you're going to go looking for them, you're going to do it without me. So Angelo Parker takes a deep breath, says, Ruby, you're absolutely right. For tonight, I'm just going to leave this beat. So, I'm not sure when this match is going to happen. Maybe it'll be in a couple weeks, but we'll see. Next up, we got our first match in 2 years from Kyle O'Reilly as he takes on AEW relative newcomer. He's been in AEW for about a month. That's bounty hunter Brian Keith. And oh boy, this was great. This was a nice little technical versus brawling showcase from two guys who honestly are definitely fun to watch. With Kyle O'Reilly winning with the Armageddon, which is a big old brain buster, to pick up the win. And as Kyle O'Reilly is celebrating, Taven Bennett and Roderick Strong to come out and celebrate with Kyle, including Roderick Strong putting Kyle O'Reilly on his shoulders. And honestly, at that point, I thought Roderick Strong was going to Batista Kyle O'Reilly. The thumbs up, thumbs down, backdrop. I thought that's what was going to happen. Sadly, it did not, but we'll see what goes on from here. Next up, we got a backstage interview with Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo, with Purrazzo saying, look, Thunder Rosa is obviously not my best friend. We've had our matches before, so for now, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. At Revolution, if you remember, Tony, you tapped out, but obviously you got a lot of help. I got screwed out of the title, and I'm coming back for it. Then Thunder Rosa kind of chimes in and says, alright, what about me? That's the title I never lost. But next week, we're going to stop with the BS, and we have our mission to take you out. Nice big fiery promo from the potential contenders for the women's title. Tag match is going to be interesting to say the least. And Fine Alamo, we got our main event of the evening, and it's a wild card match to see who moves on to the actual tournament for the tag team titles, as it's the House of Black being represented by Buddy Matthews and Brody King take on the Infantry. That's Captain Sean Dean and Charlie Bravo. Carly Bravo? I don't know. Before the match, the House of Black attacked the Infantry before the bell, including a big old crossbody with Carly Bravo sat in a chair into the barricade. House of Black then get in the ring. Infantry are struggling to get in. Eventually they do. Bell rings with Brody King and Bravo starting. And it's just pretty much House of Black to really get it started. Eventually, the Infantry do get back into it. But then Brody King with a huge Death Valley driver onto the announce table. And then a pile driver through it. Buddy Matthews with a curb stomp. And as the House of Black are looking to put away the Infantry, out comes Mark Briscoe, pretty much from out of nowhere, with a steel chair. With the ref distracted, he knocks gets a steel chair shot on Matthews. And then Shawn Dean kind of crawls over, covers Buddy Matthews, and the winners are the Infantry. And as this is happening, Mark Briscoe gets away from House of Black, runs up the steps into the crowd. As that's happening, out comes Malachi Black, steps into the ring, and has a big old stare down with Mark Briscoe. Ooh, give me a one-on-one match between those two, please. That's going to be an absolutely great matchup. We then finish our week of pro wrestling with a promo from Adam Copeland talking about his relationship with Christian Cage even before wrestling, which, that's interesting. They've been friends that long. And Christian and him talked about him coming into AEW. I wanted to retire with you, but that I didn't want to come and take your spot. But now you wanted to change all that. I'm not used to repeated failures, but I climbed my way back to you, Christian Cage. And while you tried to take me out, when I was out, I got a phone call from someone who's also as crazy as me. He reminded me about Janice, a clear reference to TNA's Abyss, who had a spiked 2x4 he called Janice, in which now he works in the office for WWE, which is a very weird thing to remember. And that's how I created, and then Copeland continues, and that's how I created Spike. Obviously, he has the box with the name Spike on it. He opens it, reveals the 2x4 with spikes. It's different from Janice. But then he says, this is Spike, and she's hungry. She wants a bite out of you. And now I remember who I am. I'm the Rated R Superstar. I've had this darkness caged up for a while. But this Wednesday, I'm going to put you in the hospital. I'm going to make you say I quit. 40 years after it started in Toronto, it ends. A nice fired up promo from Adam Copeland. Definitely building hype for this match on Wednesday. I can't wait to see that. That's going to be a great matchup. Alright, that is it from me. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Coming up in the next couple of days, we got some interesting stuff to go through. Obviously, Monday, tonight, it's Monday Night Raw, continuing our build to the road for WrestleMania. NWA Power is building to Hard Times, which I think is going to be a TV special, which, okay, cool. You have AEW Dynamite building to Dynasty. That'll be on Wednesday. Also on Wednesday, right after Dynamite ends, is AEW Rampage being moved due to the NCAA tournament, in which TNT is going to be covering. So, going to get a back-to-back night there. On Wednesday during the day, I'm going to try to get you my predictions on the updated card for WrestleMania. Hopefully we'll get some more matches revealed. So I'm not going to predict the matches themselves. I'm going to try to predict the order they're going to be in for Night 1 and Night 2 of WrestleMania. Thursday, it's going to be TNA Impact. Obviously a classic. I thought MLW Fusion was going to be coming back this month. I guess not just yet. Then, of course, Friday's SmackDown. No Rampage Friday. And I don't believe there's going to be a Collision this week either. So, Friday's going to be interesting. Obviously going to cover Raw, NWA Power, and at least Dynamite. With the following Monday covering Rampage, and TNA and SmackDown. So I hope you all stay tuned for all of that. This has been a crazy journey in wrestling we've been on. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody.